Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper and independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you a simple sketch card. A sketch card is a really simple design. It doesn't require a lot of fancy steps or fancy folds usually. It's just a design layout that can be used in different ways and is usually very easy to replicate and make multiple cards. So this is the card that I am working with tonight. It's an engagement card, and this is the front. It features some of our Valentine love themed designer series paper. And then here is the inside. The stamp set I am using tonight is Love and Happiness. This is one of my favorite stamp sets from our new January to June catalog because it's got lots of sentiments in it, and it covers anniversaries, weddings, Valentines, and engagements, congratulations, so lots of different opportunities to use this. And right now I'm just loving stamp sets that are full of sentiments like this that I can use for any number of cards. So if you do not have a demonstrator that you are currently working with and you would like a paper copy of the catalog, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to send you one. And if you're an online shopper, you can visit my website at thefaithfulstamper.stampinup.net and check out our new products there. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make the card. We're going to start with a piece of cardstock, a card base that is 8.5 inches by 5.5, and really if you prefer the longer card base, you can use that too. It really doesn't matter. But this is 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it down the middle at 4 1/4 on that long side to create my card base. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold that. This is Highland Heather, and next up I'm going to take a piece of Gorgeous Grape cardstock. This is 5 1/4 by 4. Now you can use plain cardstock for this piece. You can even use designer series paper if you want to mix it up a little bit. I embossed this with our gingham embossing folder. This is a new folder and it's one of my favorites. I've been using it on a lot of different projects. So I'm going to be gluing this to the front of the card in just a minute, but before I do that, I'm going to add one thing first. I have a rectangle of Highland Heather, just like my card base. This is 1 3/4 inches wide by 5 inches tall. And then I'm going to take a piece of designer series paper that is 1.5 inches wide by 4 3/4. I'm going to give you those measurements again, number one, because I didn't write my little post-it notes like I usually do, but I'm afraid I just said something wrong. So 1 3/4 inches by 5 here, 1.5 by 4 3/4 here. There we go. Sorry, I wasn't sure the right thing came out of my mouth. And I'm not learned how to edit videos yet. So, these get layered together. And then I'm going to take this piece and layer this right on the front of my embossed piece. Now, if you like, you can put it on with dimensionals. I'm going to glue it flat. I'm going to add some dimension to the card in a little bit, but I'm going to keep this over on the left side of my card and give that a press just so it stays. And now I'm going to put this on the card, but I'm going to add a strip of ribbon first. This is our Highland Heather Grow Green ribbon. It's beautiful, purple shiny. Can you see the shimmer? It's so pretty. I love things that shimmer. So I'm just going to take a strip of the ribbon and put that on the front of the card. Now some people prefer to use glue for their ribbon. Some will use tape runner. Some people will tack it down with glue dots. I think what I'm going to do, I didn't do this earlier, but I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive right in the middle just to help keep this in place, kind of keep it straight. And put it on the card like that. It doesn't have to be glued down all the way around, but you don't want it to move around on you. I like to tape my ribbon down. I like to take some Scotch tape. Some people would probably scream and yell because they're not a fan of tape, but I really feel like this secures the ends of my ribbon, so secure your ribbon however you like. Now that my ribbon is secure, I always double check to make sure it's straight because sometimes I manage to stick it on crooked. I'm going to take my adhesive here, my Stampin' Seal. And when I have a ribbon strip like this on my card, and when my adhesive likes to work, I like to add a little bit extra. So you're probably thinking, good Lord, how much glue do you need? But I always worry that these pieces here are going to make the card front pull off the card, and I don't want that to happen. So I give it a little extra glue. Just a little tip, or personal preference, really. All right, so I just give that a good press to make sure it's not going anywhere. Now I'm going to add this cute little sentiment square. So I'm going to start with a 2 1/8 of an inch square of Highland Heather. And you can either assemble the whole thing and then put it on the card, or put it on the card in pieces like I'm going to do. It's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong. I do it different every time. So this square I'm going to lay right here on the front. Now I have a 2-inch square of Gorgeous Grape and a 1 3/4 inch square of Real Red. See, I'm pulling all these colors right out of my Designer Series paper. These two I'm going to layer together like this. And then I'm going to put another layer of dimension here by adding, these are some of our mini dimensionals, to the corners and one in the middle. I could keep on using the large dimensionals, but it's personal preference, whatever you want to do. And come on, there we go. This is going to get layered right on top of that other square, like so. Pardon me, I'm rearranging my table here. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp on the front of this little stitched heart. Can you see the stitching? I love shapes with stitching on them. The little accent is just perfect. This comes from the Love and Happiness bundle. It's actually the Bouquet of Love hybrid bundle, which is a die set and an embossing folder, and you can cut out a beautiful heart shape with that all in one. So Gorgeous Grape ink to match with my colors. This is a red rubber cling stamp, so I do not need a cushion underneath. I can just stamp as it is because my foam cushion is already built in. So I have to remember when I do my stamping, I am not doing CPR on my stamps. You don't want to sink your stamp into your ink pad because you'll end up with ink all over the place, on your block, on your stamp, on your fingers, and then you'll probably mess up your project, and you don't want to do that. So just remember, light touch. You can tap, tap, tap. You can look at your stamp and see if you think you have good ink coverage. If you're not sure, tap it again a few more times. 1, 2, 3. And then remember, don't push it down really hard. I think our instinct is to really want to get that on the paper so that you get the stamp that you want, and if we do that, it tends to blur the stamp. So just a 1, 2, 3, a light touch, hold it for a minute and lift it up, and look at that, I've got a perfect impression. So, oop, and my lighting just gave up. Sorry about that. Okay. My light is a tad bit temperamental here. While I have my stamp, or my ink out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the inside of my card. This is a piece of basic white that is 5 1/4 by 4. And I like to accent the insides of my card with either a stamp or a piece of Designer Series paper. So I have a strip, this is 1/2 inch by 4, and I'm just going to lay it on the card. I'm not going to glue it on yet, because if I mess up my stamping, then I'd have to start all over again and cut more paper, and this way I only mess up one thing if I make a mistake. So there's my sentiment stamp. We'll see if I can get this straight or not. Not too bad. I think we'll go with that. But if I had made a mistake, I could have just flipped it over and tried again on the other side and not had to recut my paper because I didn't glue it down yet. So I'm going to take dimensionals and put them on the back of my little heart here. Oop. This goes right in the center of my square. Isn't that cute? gonna bring out my silicone mat for just a minute. I really need to clean this off. It's got glue all over it. But I like to use this because if I get glue here on my table, I'm inevitably going to stick a card in it. I actually did that this morning because I didn't use my mat. But this, you can wipe the glue off really easy, and so it's better than getting it on my actual work table. So here is my strip of Designer Series paper to provide that little accent. And then glue on the insert. This goes inside the card with a nice little border around it. And then one finishing touch. The card's perfect this way, but I like to add a little bling, and our new iridescent rhinestones are so pretty. They pick up any color that you put them on. In the package, they tend to be a little pinky or yellowy, but when you put them on your card, whoop, or stick them to your work table, whatever you like to do, or your fingernails, come on. They pick up whatever color they're on, so they're going to skew a little more purple once I get them on the front of the card here. And I like to do things in groups of 3 or 5. And let's see, we're going to do like that. So there we go. There is our quick and simple sketch card. And you can really make a lot of these quickly once you get the cutting measurements down. And you can change up the look of the card by changing up what you use to put the card together. Here's the cardstock and the Designer Series paper. And on this one, it's 2 different kinds of Designer Series paper. And because I was having so much fun with these, here's a different Designer Series paper and one less square. And I apologize that they're kind of in the shadow now that my lamp decided to turn off. And here's one more where I did different Designer Series paper and again left off that one square. So you can really mix and match to your heart's content here. No pun intended with the heart. All right. So, as always, lots of samples to show you. This is a great layout for any occasion. Sadly, I have found myself needing a lot of sympathy cards lately, so a lot of these are sympathy cards coming up. This, I was looking for a more masculine look, although this card could go either way, and just shows you the difference in Designer Series paper. I was just using scraps that I had. Instead of ribbon, you can use Designer Series paper or cardstock. You can play around with what kind of sentiment you want and where you put it on the card. And this one, I used our Forever Fern stamp set for the accents and a different stamp for the inside. I also wanted to show you, you don't have to use squares. You can use rectangles if you like. I simply cut rectangles that framed the sentiment that I wanted to use and went from there. And then you can change up the orientation on your card. This is obviously horizontal, so you have to take a look at the paper you're using. It doesn't work all the time, but if you're careful with how you cut your paper and arrange it, this works as well. So you're not tied into just the vertical orientation of the card. Then here is a card where I left the sentiment off the front entirely. I just let the image speak for itself. These are identical, just the ribbon is done differently. On this card here, I tied the ribbon around the entire card. You can see it on the inside here, and tied a bow. And then on this card, the ribbon is tied around the card, but cut and the ends are taped together underneath the sentiment or the image piece here. And then I tied a bow separately and added it to the front with a glue dot, just for a different look. And these cards coming up are my favorites, just because I'm loving this tulip paper. This is, I just let the Designer Series paper speak to it for itself. Used different strips of coordinating paper here, added some of these brushed butterflies, and then sentiment on the inside. And last but not least, one more in that horizontal orientation featuring our Timeless Tulip set, which is an older set paired with the new Designer Series paper called Flowering Fields that coordinates with our new tulip set. So you can mix and match stamp sets all you want and coordinate your cards with different stamps, different sentiments, different paper, lots of different options. So that is our simple sketch card for the evening. I thank you so much for joining me. I'd love it if you'd click subscribe on this channel that way, and you can click the notification bell and be notified every time I post a new video, which is typically twice a week. And if you are on Facebook, you can find me at The Faithful Stamper and hear about different cards and events that I talk about on the page. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care and happy crafting.